Welcome to the latest edition of the Giants Hangout. Lance Medow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross with you. As this is our weekly roundtable discussion, we recap the previous game. We also look ahead, and we focus on three themes. Today, we're going to be focusing on the offensive line, Daniel Jones, as well as special teams. And we bring in a special guest this week, a Giants online alumnus, none other than Anthony Fucilli. Fooch, how are we doing? Welcome aboard.
Lance, great to be hanging out with such an esteemed panel, especially the son, the father of Howard Cross the third. You know you're getting old when you've covered RJ's father and Howard's father, and now they're making big things happen at Duke and Notre Dame.
That's true. It makes us all right.
Well, Fooch, I would say, though, the term esteemed is used very loosely, apparently, on this program. But we do appreciate the complimentary tone right out of the gates. And Fooch, I want to start with you because this game last night reminded me of the Dallas Cowboys game. If you recall, they had a very positive drive right out of the gates, and then all of a sudden the wheels on the bus fell off relatively quickly. But we got to focus on the offensive line. A franchise record in the Monday night game. Seattle recorded 11 sacks. And here's the big difference. It's one thing with Dallas, Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, San Francisco, Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead. This Seattle defensive front, not exactly the likes of Dallas and San Francisco, yet they had a field day and absolutely dominated in the trenches.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, it was a train wreck after, in week one when your starting tackle goes down. And in this game last night, when you come into a game and your centers get out early in the game, Thomas is not in the game. We expect that guys are going to come in and everything's going to run smoothly, but that's just not the way it is in the NFL. You got to have guys that can be capable to not only just hold the fort, but move people, protect the quarterback. Right now, it's an issue with the Giants because that offensive line is in flux. It's just not working together well.
And Howard, I would say the game of musical chairs that Fooch was just hitting on has been something that they've had to go through over the course of this season in general because the injuries started early. But here's the difference, though. Seattle was down 4 starters on the offensive line, Howard. And despite that, they still at least were able to have a functional offense. So this was an interesting mirror image where both teams, I would argue, had offensive line issues. One team was able to deal with it, and the other team had an absolute major problem with it.
See, that's a misconception. You shouldn't say it like that. And the reason why is that Seattle actually didn't deal with it. The Giants, once they started losing guys and Daniel started getting hit a lot and turnovers started to happen, things went wrong. Seattle didn't have any offense. They had one play on a busted play to play to a tight end for 51 yards. Their 2 touchdowns consisted of 2, 3 or 7 yard drives. They didn't really do anything. The defense was shutting them out, going and coming. The offensive line for the Giants just did not, and I do mean did not, have anything going. Once, Schmitz was in, he played pretty good for the first series. They moved the ball. They got stopped on the tush-push thing, which I can't really stand that play, but they got stopped on it. All of a sudden, Schmitz is out. Bredesen moves over the center. You got like Lewinsky in at guard. Unfortunately for him, he's been having a hard time at it. And then that's when all things start to unravel. Daniel starts to get hit more and more. He can't, settle in the pocket to see anybody down the field. They start squatting on the short routes. It just changed the offense around totally. When people are saying like, wow, Seattle was playing great, they were managing to score, they weren't really scoring. They had balls inside of the 10-yard line basically twice, and they got 1 interception for a touchdown. They didn't really do anything offensively.
Well, but Howard, here's what I would throw in, and Russ, I want to get to you in a second. To just counter my point there, you're talking about, though, a Giants defense that had 3 quarterback hits and 2 sacks. So even though they weren't lighting up the scoreboard, the form of disruption, Howard, I would argue, was night and day in terms of what Seattle was able to do versus what the Giants were able to do. That's my main point.
Well, you could say it that way. I get it because the Giants were giving up sacks and quarterback hits and everything.
Exactly.
And Seattle wasn't giving up as many quarterback hits and sacks. But the point still remains the same. If they don't have those 2 plays, this conversation is mute. They just didn't. I think that the conception of especially turnovers, like if Thibodeau catches the ball and falls down instead of trying to catch it and run, things look. It's a lot of ifs that would have happened that would have made things different. And I don't like ifs, but you're saying that Seattle's offense was playing well, and they just basically had two series inside the 10-yard line, and that's why they looked or they scored points. Outside of that, they didn't do anything.
Go ahead, Russ.
Well, no, I mean, a couple of things here. Fuchs touched on something, and totally concur. We have guys. You always hear this. We always hear this. Next man up. Somebody gets out. Next man up. Well, you know what?
Russ.
No, hold on a second. Howard, hold on a second. That's not the case here.
If you have guys that are starters, I tell everybody this. Some of these guys wouldn't be in the league. They're just the guys they got on the team. And I'm not being mean to them or anything. They really wouldn't be in the league. They wouldn't be on anybody else's team.
Well, then that's a problem. That's exactly what I'm talking about. We always hear next man up, but the next men up are not doing the job. And I'll say this. You can talk about Lance. You mentioned kind of like the Dallas. I'll tell you what. The San Francisco game annoyed me more than the Dallas game, and this game annoyed me more than the previous two for a couple of reasons. Listen, we know the offensive line stunk the joint out last night. There's no ifs, ands, or buts, no way to sugarcoat it. It was awful. Daniel did not have a good game. I concur with that. But let me tell you something. For all we want to say about the defense, once again, a crucial play was needed. You touched on it. Howard. With $1:52 left in the first half of a 7-3 game, all of a sudden, again, it reared its ugly head. Okereke can't make a tackle. Adore can't make a tackle.
Missed tackle.
It takes it down to the 1-yard line. And you know what? I'll argue with anybody. To me, that's when the game was lost because all the momentum was taken out of the building.
No doubt, the 51-yarder was a terrible play by the defense. And let me just add this, Howard. We can make points about the O-line. We can make points about the missed tackles, but there is no complimentary in the Giants football team right now. No phase of the game is complimenting the other side. No phase of the game is picking up the other side. So, to Russ's point, if the defense gets the offense, gets them off the field there, it picks up the offense. Okay, it's a 7-3 game. But, special teams didn't pick up the Giants last night. The defense didn't pick up the offense, and the offense had no chance.
Well, I get all that, guys. And again, if one part of your team is struggling that mightily, it's going to bring everybody else down. And forgive the camera thing. I'm having computer issues. It just brings everybody else down. And I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to get better. There are not guys walking in off the street that can play. The guy who's playing left tackle for us is a guard. I mean, he hasn't played tackle except for these last 3 games. The other 2 guys, they've been searching for guards to play. If John Michael Schmitz is really hurt, there's going to be a huge adjustment. And there just is. The defense is playing better. The defense is literally playing winning football. They're getting stops. They're getting guys off the field. They're doing the stuff they're supposed to be doing. But the more they do it, the more other parts are breaking down. So,
despite the turnovers, that's one thing I'd like to see the defense provide. Get some turnovers. That's one part of the game where the defense needs to step up. You got to force some turnovers.
Turnovers are all luck. No offense.
Sometimes it's the residue of design too, Howard.
I know you guys keep saying that. That's not true. It's luck. Okay. They've had the ball in their hands 5 times this year.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a strip sack. We saw Lawrence Taylor. We saw Lawrence Taylor make a career out of the strip sack. That wasn't luck.
Is Lawrence Taylor on the team?
No. But my point is, these guys are capable defensive players. Seattle had a player come in behind Daniel Jones, strip sack from behind, fumble goes free. I'm not talking about luck. I'm talking about overpowering, making a play.
Disruptive plays. That's what Fuchs is really pointing to. Because, Howard, you can argue if you get quarterback hits, if you get in the face of the QB, that's more than luck. You're creating opportunities for your defense. That's not happening at all. And you're at the point, based on another point that Fuchs brought up in terms of the lack of complementary football, the defense is now put in a position if the offense can't score. I mean, keep in mind, this team has only scored, we're talking about around the 10-point barometer outside of the Arizona game, and they were shut out by Dallas. If your defense doesn't put touchdowns on the board, where else is the point total being manufactured? That's a major issue.
Seattle gave their offense a short field. All I'm saying, Howard, is pressure bust pipes. Seattle caused the turnover. Guess what happened? A couple plays later, touchdown, because they're inside the 15-yard line. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that the defenses, look, they're under the gun. I get it. And fellas, we haven't mentioned one guy's name yet. And think about this. He's probably the MVP of the team. They haven't had Barkley on the field. So, I mean, you take your major player out of your team. I laugh that people think that's not going to have an effect on your offense.
Well, I think everybody would concur. Fuchs, totally. Everybody here would agree, and not a lot of people outside would agree too. Yeah, without Barkley, they're missing something. But to me, it's just more than that. I mean, the play of the offensive line, like I say, Howard brings out a good point. He does. If maybe these guys, if they weren't on this team, they wouldn't be on another NFL team. Maybe that's true. And you know what? From what we're seeing from the backups, there might be a lot of truth to that, because we keep hearing, and Dave's, and not just Dave's, but they all say next man up. And that's the attitude you have to take. But then when we put the next man up, he's getting knocked on his keister. Jones is running for his life. It's a vicious cycle. It's not good.
Russ, I have just one thing in defense of the New York Giants. You take away a star quarterback from a team, they're not going to be the same. You take away a star running back from a team, they're not going to be the same. And guess what? Everyone in the National Football League loses their left starting franchise tackle. They're not going to be the same. I don't care what you say, fellas. You're not bringing the same offensive lineman and any team off the bench and say, hey, we're going to be just as good. That's why they're backups. The offensive line position is the most difficult position in football to have depth at.
But you know what, Fuchs? That's a very fair point. And I'm not expecting anybody on the Giants to be as good as Andrew Thomas. However, the drop-off is off the charts. That's what I'm talking about. I don't expect just like I don't expect a running back, Breida, to be as good as Saquon. But
so guys, let me do this for you. I said after the season was over, great, the Giants are a year ahead. I said, but next year they're going to play better teams, and it's just going to be tougher. They're not going to be playing the AFC South. They're just not. They're going to be playing better teams within their division. They're going to be playing better teams. Everybody got better as the year went on. And now you're getting to see, remember, last year they won a bunch of really tight, close games.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be the same. You're going to have where you're playing better teams constantly, their personnel is going to show that, hey, look, you're still away. This is supposed to be the year they kind of like almost leveled out, but there's no way for them to level out because there are better players on the field. If they were 100% healthy, and I do mean 100% healthy, they would still be in tough games and they'd have to figure out a way to try to win. But when you can't get started, when you can't drop back without your quarterback having to start to run when he hits his third step.
How about when you can't play with the lead? They've not played with the lead.
They can't get started. Like
they've had it for about 19 seconds so far this season.
Not one play.
I appreciate all this stuff, but guys, I don't expect them to be any better than they are unless every man is up.
Howard, you bring out
a lot of nice shiny toys. I get it. But the baseline, your tires, the thing that gets you going, are flat.
Yeah. Well, the infrastructure.
You guys can make all the comments about it you want, and they're going to fill the team as it goes. It takes time to build a full offensive line. They got 2 to 3 guys. 3 to 2 guys maybe, or 2 to 3 guys that they think can do it. They're going to have to get 2 more guys to do it.
And 2 were sitting on the bench last night, Howard.
Yeah, and if they don't stay healthy, you're going to get it. And they're a big role over the next year or this year going into next year. And I'm not saying the season's over. They're going to play better as people get back. But their big goal is going to be to fill out the rest of these players. It's just hard to do.
Howard, you mentioned that you knew the schedule was going to be tougher this year. And you're right. We all looked at the schedule, especially his first 4, 5, 6 games. I think everybody would agree with that. At the same point, I'm seeing teams that we faced, the Cowboys, the 49ers.
No one thought they were going to win those games, though. I mean,
but what I'm seeing from the Giants, I hate to say it.
All you have to do, Russ, is look at Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Right.
Look at how they're playing. They're all his offensive lines.
I'm not worried about Cincy. I'm worried.
I know, but I'm telling you.
But what I'm seeing from the Giants.
Look around the league. They're bad offensive lines, and those teams are playing horribly.
But Howard, I'm seeing
just another one of those teams.
There's bad offensive lines. What I've seen in a couple of games, and quite frankly, I saw some of it again last night, is ineptitude. This is the National Football League. It's ineptitude. And that's got to be, Dave's got to be, no pun and joke meant here, pulling his hair out. I mean, we're not seeing it. I mean, they're out of games. I mean, it's embarrassing. That's the word. It's embarrassing. I'm frankly dumbfounded. I didn't expect this team to go to the Super Bowl. And I thought that their record.
But you have unrealistic expectations. You watch them all training camp. The days that they practice, the defense ran over the offense. You watched them when they went and practiced against Detroit. The offensive line looked like they were getting handled. You watched them in preseason games, except for the one game when they let the first offensive line, when all 5 guys played, they looked decent. Outside of that, they look like they could be in trouble.
Well, that's why the caliber of the competition needs to be taken into consideration. And that's what Howard's point is.
Because
they're not going to play anybody any softer for the next 5 games.
But Howard, you know, they call them special teams for a reason. And you can't be losing that phase of the game every week. I mean, you got a field goal that was blocked against Dallas that changed the whole game around. You've had plays in every week in the special teams that are that you scratch your head. You had a fumble last night, which, hey, look, you want to put a rookie back there? That's on you. But again, they got the ball back. I get it. But my point is, they're called special teams for a reason, Howard. You're going to be special on that phase of the game. They're not special on that phase of the game right now.
They didn't draft a returner.
Well, that's on. You know, they got 5. They had 9 receivers in camp. You tell me one guy can't catch the ball back there, Howard?
Catch the ball. You're saying it. They didn't draft a returner. The kid they brought back, the kid that they drafted and said they made him the returner, is at best a kickoff returner. He's not a punt returner.
Well, that's a dangerous position to test somebody back there.
It's windy. He's rushing up to get the ball. He muffs the ball. The moment he muffs the ball, they take him out. Who do they put back
Jackson.
there?
Yeah, they put
Adoree Jackson there. Adoree Jackson got hurt last year catching punts, trying to return it.
And they need him on it. Right.
Yeah. So when the ball's coming, he's trying to manage to get under it. But if it's not right to him, he's not running to it. Right? Then why is he not doing it? Because one, that's not his role.
Right. But Howard, they have 9 receivers on this squad. You're telling me one guy on that squad
every receiver in the league is not a returner.
But they do have good hands.
That's a misconception.
Oh, well, listen.
Think about all the Giants teams were the great returners we had. Out of all the great returns we had since I've been here, only one guy was a receiver that I could think of, and that was Amani Toomer and maybe Phil McConkey. And then after that, they're just like they're usually maybe a DB whose only job is to make returns, or maybe it's a smaller running back. His only job is to do returns. Outside of that, it's a special job, and you got to be able to do it.
You had a special one last year, and I know he left. He went to Denver, but you had one last year.
You talking about James?
I thought James was good. I mean, yeah, sometimes he gave you some headaches, but he made some good plays for you.
They took James out of the game to put in Jackson. That's how Jackson got hurt.
He got hurt against the Lions. Well, listen, the other guy.
Yeah.
The other guy that you could bring up, actually, Fucci, if you want to go down the road of the coulda, woulda, shoulda, is Jamison Crowder, who was on the roster during training camp, and he has really good return skills. He did not make the cut because it was a numbers game at the receiver position.
Right. So, I'm saying somebody. Yeah. They had like 14 guys in camp.
No, and I get that, but I would point out, guys, I think actually the larger issue is, and I understand you need a reliable return guy, but there were 6 accepted penalties in the game.
That's my
5
point.
came on special teams.
Team.
The whole unit, correct. It was the coverage issue because you're giving up valuable field position when you have ineligible players downfield and you have holding and you have roughing the kicker, which I know is declined. So you allow the Seahawks to continue the drive. I mean, we're talking about an offense that has been anemic So that means your defense and your special teams has to be perfect in order to make up for that, and that's not happening.
Well, this team, unfortunately, is especially on offense, is not good enough. Certainly not at this juncture in the season. After a quarter, they're not good enough to begin in big holes, and that's what Fuch is talking about. You want to know what? No, it's not complimentary. It's the exact opposite.
Actually, guys, it is complimentary football because the offensive line's playing bad, the special teams is playing bad. They're complimenting each other.
Well, not in a good way, though, Howard. That's the point, though.
I mean, like I told you, like it begins with good tires. If the tires are flat, you can have the fastest engine, you can have like the greatest body, everything, but you can't get rolling if the tires are flat.
Look, Howard, I get it. It all starts up front. But they also have a defensive line, too, that starts up front. And I like to see some of the defensive players impose their will on the defensive line and cause some turnovers, get some strip sacks, tip some balls. I get it. The O-line right now is – I get it. But it's a team. They tip
balls in every game. The ball's been on the ground all the time, strip sacks, and they just hadn't gotten to it. And when I tell you that's part of luck, that is part of luck. So I
don't know. Maybe you're right. They had a lot of luck last year.
When you watch the Giants playing defense and you see Thibodeau get a sack, he's back there and Ojulari's back there. When you watch teams against us get a sack, there are 12 guys in the backfield. I don't know who they are.
Well, so they're creating opportunities.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the point.
You guys keep saying creating opportunities. We have the right now. Our offensive line, like guys are out of position, guys that wouldn't give another team playing. You keep trying to make them better.
Okay, Howard, hold on. Howard, I got to point this out. Fuch, I don't mean to go. No, hold on, Howard. One thing I got to throw out: the Dallas Cowboys, okay, Howard, have led the NFL in takeaways for the last 2 seasons, and they're headed there for the 3rd straight year in a row. Okay, they've got a +9 turnover differential. Hold on, you're going to tell me that that's all luck, Howard? That's not the system and the scheme?
That's Michael Parsons. He has 4. There are 4 Pro Bowl players on their team. There are 4.
So the talent is maximizing and living up to potential.
Stop talking. Maximizing Pro Bowl players. When the Giants used to do it back when it was LT, All-Pro, Hall of Famer, Carl Banks, Hall of Famer, Harry Carson, Hall of Famer, defensive lineman. You had all those guys. That's why they're called legendary defenses. Dallas right now might have a legendary defense. That's how good their guys are.
Howard, I get what you're saying.
A lot of guys. You guys can scheme. You guys can plan. You can do whatever you want. If I played against our team today, I could block Thibodeau.
Okay.
I could block. Listen, I could block Ojulari. You're trying to make these guys somebody they're not.
I get it.
They're not those guys.
I get it. But remember one thing. Just one thing. One thing, Howard. Help me out here. One thing. Answer this question. You drive the ball down the field in the first quarter. You're driving the football. Same offensive line, right? They're driving the ball. 4th and 1. That's the best play you're coming up with? Come on, Howard. You can help the team. It's not. Sometimes the players need some help. They need some plays. They need some imagination. That play that they ran, Howard, was unacceptable.
You guys can scream and yell and do all you want to.
No, it was unacceptable.
The tush push has worked on every team except for 2 this year.
That's the best we can come up with.
Well, that's one of them. Last night was one of them. I tend to agree with Fuch on that, especially when you have a quarterback with the wheels that he has.
Again, the play that they ran last night has worked for every team except for 2. One team, I think, didn't get it, and we didn't get it. Let me explain to you why.
Take it out of the playbook, then.
Take it out of the playbook.
No more tush push.
You guys are right. You guys are right. That's why we're all on camera and not watching film today.
Well, 3 of us are on camera technically if we're going to be privy to the details, but yes.
That is true.
And you know what? Fuch was bringing out a point. When you talk about luck, well, luck is also the residue of, you call it design, Fuch. I'll say residue. Branch Rickey, the famous baseball man used to say, luck is the residue of hard work. And one place where they're not working hard is at tackling. And while the defense played better last night, I will still concur. The game was lost with $1:52 left in that first half because we failed to tackle. They failed to tackle. If you let a guy run down a sideline for 51 yards, the wind was taken out of the entire team, the building. Then you went in, instead of going down 7-3 or maybe 10-3, it's 14-3. Yeah, and they're getting the ball also to start the second half.
That wasn't Travis Kelce. That was Noah Fant, by the way.
Correct. He's not the most elusive. He's not the fastest, most dangerous weapon on the Seahawks. So, that also has to be emphasized. And it was a carryover.
With a backup quarterback, Lance.
Drew Lock, correct. On a 3rd and 10, also Fuchs, let's not forget.
Yeah, okay, 3rd and 10.
So let me help you guys out.
San Francisco again.
So let me help you guys out. So you can understand the play. He didn't run a route. He was supposed to block. Right. He looked back. Wide open. He totally missed his guy, and he started running. And the quarterback threw him the ball. Now, all the missed tackles that happened after that, I have fault in. But if he had done his job, the play would have been dead.
So you're saying they have no luck this year is basically what you're telling me.
I'm just telling you.
That's what you're telling me. Last year they had luck.
I'm not telling you no luck. They can have bad luck.
They're not making their luck either.
Yeah.
I want to go back, though, to the 4th and 1 play that Russ and Foods brought up, as well as Howard, because here's what I will throw out, guys, though. Putting the play calling aside, it should not be that much to ask an offensive line to get a push forward for 1 yard. See, that's what I would argue, Fooch. I understand you want to see a little bit more diversity. You've got Daniel Jones, but we're talking about pushing the line forward for a yard.
Lance, what's the strength? Lance, what's the strength of the Seahawks? Defense? Well, I would not say, Fooch, I wouldn't say, well, yesterday was the front, but not overall. They're good at run defense. They're a good run defense.
That's what they're known for. I understand, but Fooch, we're talking about pushing a pile forward for 1 yard. In the NFL today, I don't think that's asking for much.
I get you guys. Like I said, it only failed 2 times since they started running it last year. And up until this week, this was a week that it failed twice. Up until this week, it was 100%. It was so much so 100% that the entire league and people were saying they should outlaw the play because you don't want 100% play. And you guys are sitting here now looking back at it and going like, oh, they should throw that play out. It should never be run. They should give the ball to Danny. They should be doing this. 100% until that day. Sunday was the first day it failed, and last night it failed. Outside of that, it's been 100%. You can shake your heads and be angry about it. If I'm a coach, I'm calling the play that's 100% in the league.
Well, listen, it's not 100% anymore. Let's put it that way.
Brian Cable is an
now it's 97. Now it's 97% accurate.
Yeah, 97% accurate for the league. It's not 97% accurate for the New York Football Giants.
And by the way, Russ, Brian Cable's an innovative coach. That's not innovative right there. That is not an innovative coach.
Why you guys keep saying that? 97%, I'll take it every time. We just don't have an offensive line that can do it. You can say no.
You just said it then. If you don't have an offensive line that can do it, what the hell's the sense of doing it for?
Wait a minute. Before it was run, they thought they could.
I tell you what, Howard, when you bring back O'Hara and Seibert and you bring back all the great players in deal, then you can run the push. Then you can run the push all you want.
So when he runs the ball, when they throw passes, he's getting hit on the second step. You run the ball, sometimes they're getting hit in the backfield 2 yards deep. So the play that's designed is 97% accurate. You don't want to run, but you want to run the play where you're going to – if they ran a play and he got tackled 2 yards deep. You're
hiding behind the 97% because it's been run, 4 times? Come on, Howard. If you ran it 100 times and it was 90%, I'd be 100% behind you. You can't run something 4 times and tell me it's 90% successful.
Every time last year the play was run by the Eagles and everyone else, it worked. This year starting out for 3 games in the season, every time everybody ran it, it worked. I'm sorry, guys. That's just craziness what you're talking about. The offensive line is the easiest player to perform. They didn't perform it. The quarterback left his feet and jumped a little bit. It just missed.
Howard, sometimes you know that there's a team on the other side that probably is going to impose their will up front because you have a weakness. Because you have a weakness. That's why you run misdirection. That's why you throw the ball out in space.
Give me a play. Give me a play.
You can't move the pile.
Give me a play that was going to work. Any play. Design one.
Russ just mentioned it.
Yeah, I'll design a play. I mean, listen, I'm not
Daniel
killing it. I'm not saying it can't work, but you have a guy like you certainly saw last night, for as bad a game as it was, you certainly saw what his wheels can do, Daniels. I don't care if it's a little rollout.
Which they ran early, which they ran another time, if you remember. He ran a rollout. He didn't find anybody. What did he do? He used his God-given ability and got the first down.
Yeah, the fake, especially when they got the defense to buy in. Howard, I'll tell you this. If you could prove to me you could block Jaron Reed for 3 seconds, I will give you a jersey and I will let you suit up next week against the Miami Dolphins, okay? And then Russ and Fuchs could be my offensive coordinators and they can run the play. I'll pick personnel. They'll make the play call. How about that? All right? Can we all agree?
I'm saying to you guys, as you guys are looking at you, and you're not even acknowledging that Bellinger went out in the same series. You're just not. They're trotting Pert in there trying to give him some plays. It just isn't the same.
No, listen, we know it's not the same. We've seen the results. The Giants have had not one play run this year with the lead. And again, look, their franchise running back has not been on the field. Their franchise tackle has not been on the field. I get it. They're a wounded animal. But what I'm saying is the other parts of the team aren't lifting it up either. Let's not just kill the offensive line. It is a team, Howard. Team. Someone else has got to pick it up on one phase of the game.
And you know what, Howard? You know this better than anybody because unlike us, you've played. Okay. The one thing.
But you're still arguing with me.
No, hold on a second. You cannot let it get into players' heads. Our guys are out. Woe is me, so we can't get the job done. I understand. Fuchs is right. You got Thomas out. You got Saquon out. You got this guy out. I get it. But so what are you supposed to do? Like, okay, well, we're going to do as best as we can, guys.
Well, you know what, Russ?
Done.
You know what, Russ? And Howard can tell you about this right now. How about if you're on the sideline, Howard, and you make that first down on 4th and 1? What does that do to the guys? What does that do? It picks everybody up because you know what? We're moving the ball. We just got a big first down. When they didn't get it on the tush push, what happened? It all came down. Oh, God, that was a missed opportunity.
I'm just going to tell you, whatever play he would have run, if it didn't work in 4th down, you would either said he needed to take the points and kick the field goal or something else. When things don't work, you're an
I wouldn't have minded that.
No.
The results influence
the emotion of the outcome. So I already know. So there's nothing I can tell you guys that's going to make it sound what it is. I'm telling you facts, and you're arguing with emotion.
Well, you can tell me one thing, Howard.
You know what? I mean, Howard, emotion has a lot to do with the game, and especially
Actually, Russ, it doesn't. Because
come on, Howard. Sure it does.
Guys, stop. You're asking a player, and I'm telling you, if you're doing your job like the defense did last night, they freaking played great. The defense played awesome. The offensive line let the team down. They couldn't play anything. They gave up 11 sacks. They gave up more than 11 hits. The quarterback was under duress the entire night. He missed the only one chance he had to throw a touchdown because he was freaking out. He was going to get hit again.
I agree with that.
You guys are sitting here now telling me that they should do all these other things and they should
No. We didn't say that.
Stop.
Howard didn't say that.
I'm listening to you.
No, we just put a different play.
Well, listen, guys, before
listen to you. I've watched other teams play when they're distressed and whatever. They go out and they just still keep fighting. Most of the team was still fighting. And I'm going to tell you, the offensive line was fighting their little hearts out. They don't have the ability to. And
the execution wasn't where it should be.
That's what it's going to look like.
But Howard, the one thing I do want to get to before we wrap up here, and this is what you were somewhat alluding to, is the turnovers have also been a killer. Okay, they're -8 in turnover differential. It's tied for the second worst mark. To put things in perspective, through 4 games last season, guys, they were +1. So aside from the caliber of the competition changing, it's also ball security. And while Daniel Jones was under a lot of pressure, Howard, to your point, it's hard to overlook the fact that that was a golden opportunity in the red zone where maybe he was starting to be concerned about, I'm going to get hit, even though he did have time. Devin Witherspoon jumps the route. That was just as much of a game changer as the missed 4th and 1 and the Noah Fant missed tackles, because that went from 14-3 to 21-3. The other one, when he held onto the ball, he was hit. He overthrew his intended receiver. Quandre Diggs was there for the interception. So, these are lost possessions, guys. Whoever you want to point the finger at, they cannot afford to have lost at bats like baseball when you're down by double digits. Correct.
Lance, real quickly, this is my last point. When we're talking about emotion here, you're on Monday Night Football, national TV, in your own building, okay? You march down the field on your first possession, 4th and 1. The wind is you don't get it, so the wind is completely taken out of the sails of the fans in the building. That's how you start the game, the first half, and you end the first half on a 3rd and 10 with a $1:52 left and a 51-yard play. Again, the wind is taken out. You're going to tell me that emotion is not a factor in the game?
Big play.
And there's no reason, then you might as well be playing in Central Park and not playing at MetLife Stadium.
Or don't have any fans in the
I can help
stadium.
both of you guys out right now. I went to watch my son play Duke, North Carolina. They were winning barely. None of their offensive receivers were playing. They had one tight end. I watched the defense play the best game I've ever saw them play, including my son. When they took the lead, the wind went out of the stadium for the Notre Dame fans, and the crowd went crazy for Duke. Everybody on the sideline, okay, we just got to keep fighting. And they just kept fighting. They didn't have the right body posture. They didn't have all the other stuff. They just kept fighting. When you guys talk about emotion, the emotion and the thing that you feel is the stance. It's electric. The guys are waving the towels. It's exciting. But there's a job to do. When you get hit in the mouth on the field, your focus is on the field. This screaming and yelling you guys are doing, that's cute. But when you're getting hit in the mouth, you're locked in. The defense was locked in. They were doing all they can. The offensive line was trying the best they could. They were just outgunned, outmanned, and outpositioned. All this emotion and all this stuff you're talking about is fairy tale.
I get it, Howard. I get it, Howard. You're giving me the old Mike Tyson line. Everybody's got to play until they get hit. I understand
that's the truth.
I understand what you're saying, but
Howard, so basically, you're saying there's no advantage of playing at home.
You're letting these guys off the hook.
If you're playing, I've been on teams and watched teams that won the Super Bowl that were quote unquote road warriors. Tell me about it. What do you want them to do? If they win the rest of their games on the road and lose the games at home, they'll be road warriors. I can't make it perfect for the fans. What's the real problem with the team is the offensive line is really bad. They were at best a okay, mediocre line if everybody's healthy. They're not healthy. And I don't know when they're going to be healthy. We're going to deal with some things, and coach is going to have to try to figure out some things, or Daniel's going to die. Not
Howard,
literally.
Howard, we get what you're saying. We get what you're saying. But you know what? In all fairness, I was like you once when I watched the 07 team give up 92 points in the first 2 games. And I said, this team is terrible. I mean, this is a terrible defense. And then they made a play in Washington that turned around the whole season. All I'm saying is somebody's got to make a play in a big spot. Like Russ is saying, don't give up a 51-yarder at the end of the half. You keep talking to me about the offensive line. But if you don't give up that play, it's 7-3.
Yeah, game-changing plays. Clearly, they're not happening, whether they be on offense or on defense. And until that changes,
I thought the team was going to win when they came out at half, and then I'm like, okay, well, it's still tough, but they still have a chance. They just couldn't do it up front.
All right. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap up. So this way, Howard also could put in one of those inspirational sports movies and get ready for the next version of the Giants Hangout, because we know how much emotion plays in to the thought process, both on and off the field.
Can we get a picture of Howard, because we couldn't see him? Let's get a picture of him scoring one of his touchdowns in the end zone.
We'll put that graphic up. Our production team will put that up in post. I promise you.
Where he catches the ball.
I'm already talking with our sources, and they're working through all the computer and the technology functions to make sure that works. Yes. Well, that is going to wrap up the latest edition of the Giants Hangout. Lance Medow, Russ Salzberg, Howard Cross, and our special guest, Anthony Fucilli. Fuch joining us here this week as we're with you each and every week, our roundtable discussion recapping the latest game through the lens of 3 themes. You can catch the Giants Hangout on Giants.com, mobile app, and your favorite podcast platform. We're out. Have a good one.